Hi, I'm the Unscripted Disciple, and I like my 3 a.m. thoughts how I like my coffee black. I've been playing a game called Keep Driving. It's an interesting game. I don't know what that sound was, but I had some thoughts on it because we have a lot that this game wants us to think about. You see, this game really wants us to think on introspective. Now, I'll get to what the game is in just a second, but hear me out on this, right? This game wants you as a person to think about where you're going or what you're doing, right? What is going on? I think it's interesting how it does it, the way it manufactures this thought, because it doesn't really ask you to do it like explicitly. It doesn't tell you that that's what it wants you to think about, but you do anyways. Now, if you're like me, then you've never heard of this game and you have a terrible Ryan Reynolds addiction. So let's talk about that a little bit. This game is basically a match the tile game. You are driving as a young adult to a music festival that you want to go to. And the game loop is pretty simple. You start driving to a location, and once you've started driving, you come across road events, and these can be a plethora of different things. This can be anywhere from potholes and slow drivers to having sticky balls. It happens more often than you'd think. And this introspective talk I was telling you about, it starts right at the beginning when you're making your character, because when you're making your character, you start off with a really personal question. How's your relationship with your parents, Todd? So you start and you answer your question, but the question there plays into the gameplay at the end. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So as you drive from place to place, you're going to drive from pit stop to pit stop, and that takes time. Of course, time management is a part of this, which I'll get into in a minute, but you're also managing mostly your resources. Those resources are your energy, your gas, your car stability, and your money. Those 4 resources are your lifeline. If any one of those goes out, except for your money, you end up losing, which does play into my ending, which I'll promise. I'm getting there, I promise. Just give me a second. It's just so silly. I really think it's interesting. But the road events, as I mentioned, are going to attack your resources. And as you play, your resources, of course, are going down. You're driving, so your car stability is going to lower. Your gas is going to go down, you're not going to have energy, and you have to keep those things up. As you're driving, you'll also come across a couple of different other road events, like hitchhikers, abandoned cars, and even pee breaks sometimes. I wish I was joking. That's a real mechanic in this game. So your hitchhikers. If you come across a hitchhiker and you decide to pick them up, they will each have their own skills, and they will also have a downside, but the main thing I'm going to focus on here is skills, because you need your skills to help protect you from the road events and get a grip on what's going on. Anyways, so you have to learn to manage your resources with your skills, because your skills only have a certain amount of uses. You can get some handicaps, like in some road events, your passengers are sleeping, and so you can't use their skill. But they will be more useful than yours usually, because everyone else around you is better than you all the time. You want to avoid these road events because you're trying your best not to waste resources the way I waste money on a gym membership. And so that management keeps going. As I said before, you also have time management. You and your passengers both have things that you want to do, that you want to get to, that you want to see and experience and explore. And yeah, you get to explore some things like back alleys that you would and definitely should be stabbed in with used heroin needles. And as you are going out and you're doing your thing, you're managing time, you're managing your resources, you're trying your best to get to your goal, you keep also having to check your calendar and your skills and your people, your passengers, hitchhikers, whatever you want to call them. Those guys, you have to manage those guys too. You want to make sure that they are on track with everything else that you're doing. And that can kind of leak into the rest of the game. Managing your hitchhikers is another issue. I know that for me, I had my first hitchhiker who would help me get money sometimes, also sometimes steal it. But that's besides the point. He would sometimes help you get money, which I like. So I tried to keep him in the car as long as I could. But I realized that he was a terrible misogynist, and everyone gets respect in my car. Always. I'm also 6'3" and have a 401k. But wait, there's more, because I still haven't gotten to the fact that you still have limited uses, like I said, but those uses only come back once you've slept, and sleeping takes time. So you're managing time again. This is one of the things that I would say I complain about in this game. I don't have a lot, but I really don't like this, where you have like 3 or 4 different factors hanging on one resource. And so it's less like resource management and more like resource guessing. You're sitting there in your car like, should I sleep? Or maybe I should try my best not to kidnap this little girl that I found. Of course, at pit stops, you can refill your resources, but those usually cost money. And if you want money, then you need to get a job, and that costs time. This game likes to pile on your resources. It doesn't feel like resource management. It feels like resource stress, and it's just difficult. It's hard. Of course, you do get items that you can use, but those cost money again. So like I said, I'm done. I'm not going in circles anymore, but I really want you to understand that this game does not like you if you try your best to take care of one thing at a time. You have to be managing everything at the same time all the time, which I think kind of adds to the realism in a way, because yes, you are like more realistically trying your best to manage your resources, but at the same time, are you managing your resources, or are you trying your best just not to die? Which I think is a realistic thing for these kind of road trips. There have been plenty of times where my goal ended up landing just to the luck of the draw. Like, you get left up to chance. It sucks, but it's what happens. It's a bit realistic. I know that for me, on a road trip, I've been hit with blessings unknown to man and curses that made me think God hated me for a little while. Which I get it. I understand. I understand. I get it. I do. And having the game left up to RNG kind of makes you think about it, right? Are you going to work through the problem, or are you going to be a cry little baby child person? Is that you? Or which are you? What are you going to do about it? Another part of this game is that you also have postcards. These postcards are different side quests. These side quests are different endings. Which brings me to what I talked about before, which is my ending. My ending ended up being me breaking down because I didn't have money for gas, which was great. And I ended up having to call my dad. Now, I did this once already before when it happened, and I had 100% chance of getting him to answer. But on the second time, I only had a 40% chance and it failed. Now, I think this is why it asks you at the beginning of the game what the relationship is with your parents. It's not asking you, it's asking you what you want. It might be difficulty, I'm not sure. But now you know what the gameplay is like, so let's move over to the story. The story is pretty simple, but I think it gives a deeper insinuation to this game, which we'll get into in a minute. You start out as a young adult who is going to a music festival. As I said, simple, I know. You are trying your best to get there, but along the way you'll get distracted. Things like hitchhikers, postcards, skills, any number of things. And you have to pick which one you want. There are multiple endings to this game. Now, the one that I got is the one that I got, and I'll show it to you. I've showed it to you. But that's not the only ending. You see, there are a lot of different endings in this game, and I won't show them here because I don't want to spoil it. I want you to go play this game. You go play this game, see what it says to you, come back, tell me what it told you. What did you get out of it? And this management mentality kind of plays into the rest of the story. You see, yes, you're managing your resources and time and everything else, which now that I'm thinking about it is interesting about time management, because I know that like in bigger games that you play, somebody will be like, meet me in 2 weeks, adventurer. 3 months go by and you save the whole world, and now they're like, oh, thank you for meeting me in a reasonable amount of time. I did not. Okay. In case you didn't notice, I stopped the cosmos from collapsing on itself. You should be upset, which is something interesting about this game, that you have consequences for your actions. You're held accountable. Interesting. And like I was saying, this management mechanic does hold over rather well. This accountability in the story, because each ending has a timeline. You have to get to your ending at a certain time. And every ending has its own little quote thing with it that kind of asks, not asks, but it has a deeper edge to it. So at the end, it'll be something really deep and kind of edgy at it. Like for the one that I got, it asks, is this adventure really over? Is it? Is it over? Or did it just start? Yes, you're sent back home, and yes, you have to give up everything you wanted to do, but you're just starting from ground zero. Who hasn't had that? I know that I've had that in just the last couple of years. So I think it's a very interesting mechanic to bring this management back over to what it was. So I think it's interesting that it brings this management idea over to the story too. I think it's really interesting the way it does that. A lot of games don't really interweave the gameplay and the story mechanics. I touched on this in my last video, and you should go watch it. You should also subscribe and hit the bell icon. Anyways, this management is brought over quite well. It's not disconnected at all. It's asking you the same question. How are you going to manage it? What are you going to do? Just asking it on a more deep and personal level. Another way that the story asks you these deep questions is with hitchhikers. Without saying it, it's asking, are you going to be the kind of person that helps themselves to get where they want to go? Or are you going to be the person that helps others? It kind of ignores what you wanted to do because you were more interested and more invested in helping the people around you. And I think that's interesting because as you play, you do get other story tidbits like the introspectives, which is a road event you come across. When you come across a introspective road event, you are asked some silly question like, can you get addicted to grilled cheese? Now that's a silly question, but it wants you to think introspective, which is what I said at the start of this video, that this game wants you to think introspectively. So what are we thinking about introspectively in our day-to-day lives? You see, oftentimes when we think introspective, we think like, oh, what am I gonna have to eat this Tuesday? I don't know, whatever. But it's also asking, think deeper. What kind of person are you going to be in your life? I know that that's something that every young adult has to answer at some point, which plays into the story. You have to ask yourself at some point, what am I going to do? How am I going to act? How am I going to treat the people around me? What kind of person are you going to be? What kind of thing are you going to do? You know, are you going to be the person that helps people out, boosts them up, keeps other people going over yourself? Are you gonna be the person who tries to walk the line and kind of balance and be like, yeah, I have my own stuff I want to get to, but I want to help this person too? Or are you going to be the lone wolf, the person that says, no, I'm just going to go for what I want, forget everybody else? What kind of person are you going to be? I know that as a Christian, I think on this a lot. Like when I've done something wrong or I've messed something up, I think to myself, what am I doing? Where am I going? What kind of thing am I being called to? I think that's something that everyone should ask themselves. At some point, what are you doing? Where are you going? And I think that's something that everybody should be thinking about every day. Today, I want you to think about it. What is your introspective? Where are you going? What are you doing? What kind of person are you going to be? And I think this game really presents that question in a very interesting and found way. A way that seems to be both hidden and yet in your face at the same time. It manages to ask this question in the gameplay, in the story, in the character creator. It wants you to think on yourself in your own life. But that's just my thought. I'm probably overthinking it. I'll see you later.